The kitchen doors swung open so hard that the metal hinges shook. The smell of burnt pancakes and half-mixed batter followed the man who stormed out. His white coat was stained, his hat was tilted sideways, and his face showed the kind of exhaustion that lived in his bones. He stopped at the center of the hallway, threw his apron on the floor, and raised his voice so every housekeeper and guard could hear him. "I quit. I cannot satisfy those kids." His words echoed through the marble walls of the Beaumont estate. A few staff members pretended to look busy. Others simply froze because they had seen this moment many times before. This was the 22nd chef walking out in less than 6 months. The chef shook his head, wiped his forehead, and walked toward the front door without a backward glance. His footsteps were loud enough to signal his anger, but quiet enough to show his relief. The moment the door shut behind him, a whisper rolled across the hallway. "Nobody lasts 48 hours with those twins." This sentence had become a rule in the mansion. It was not written anywhere, yet it controlled everything. Inside the kitchen, 2 8-year-olds sat at the counter with untouched plates. Noah tapped a spoon against a glass cup with a slow rhythm, while Naomi kicked her legs under the stool, bored and restless. Their eyes were sharp, intelligent, and demanding. Anyone who cooked for them knew that these two did not accept mistakes, excuses, or anything less than perfect. Noah finally sighed. "This is why dinner tastes bad every night. People leave." Naomi nodded. "Father says we deserve the best, so why do we never get the best?" Their question hung in the air like a quiet blame. Far away from the mess, Owen Beaumont, a billionaire known for extreme privacy and extreme expectations, stood in his office, unaware that chef number 22 had just quit. He ran one of the largest consulting firms in the country, yet his biggest challenge lived under his own roof. He had seen men and women build empires, lose empires, recover empires, and fall again. But nothing prepared him for the stubborn will of 2 children who wanted perfection in every plate that touched their table. A knock finally broke his focus. His assistant stepped in with careful steps. "Sir, there has been another resignation in the kitchen." Owen closed his eyes for a brief moment. How long did this one last? 31 hours. Owen allowed a long breath to escape. The number felt like an insult. He had provided every resource possible, a fully equipped kitchen, a competitive salary, a staff of assistants, fresh ingredients shipped daily. Yet every chef had walked out with the same complaint. The twins were not cruel. They were simply children who wanted things exactly the way they imagined them. If the texture of the eggs changed by a small margin, they complained. If the toast had the wrong shade, they refused it. If a meal tasted good yesterday but slightly different today, it frustrated them. Tonight, Owen felt the weight of fatherhood pressing against the weight of responsibility. His late wife had been the only one who managed the twins without raising her voice. They had listened to her. They had trusted her. Since she passed, the house had never returned to calm. "Post another job listing," Owen said. "Interview the next candidates by tomorrow." The assistant nodded and walked out, but she already knew the truth. By morning, there would be many applicants. By the next evening, most of them would walk out. The story of Chef 22 was already spreading among the staff, and every version included the same detail. The twins had demanded a full dessert tray at midnight. He had been asleep in the staff quarters when a guard shook him awake. Naomi said she wanted strawberry pie. Noah said he wanted chocolate cake. They had argued over which dessert should come first. When the chef delivered both, Naomi complained that the pie filling was too warm, and Noah refused the cake because he thought the frosting was not smooth enough. The chef had tried his best for nearly an hour. When the twins returned the food again, something inside him simply gave up. That was when he packed his bag and waited for sunrise to announce his departure. To the staff, this was no surprise. To the twins, it was not a big deal. To Oven, it was a slow disaster building behind his busy life. It was almost evening when the front gate buzzed. A guard checked the camera, then spoke into the intercom. "There is a woman here. Her name is Alana Carter. She said she is here for the interview." The guard sounded confused because Alana did not match what he expected from a chef applicant. She wore simple clothes, carried a single backpack, and had a calm expression that did not match the chaos inside the mansion. Oven had nearly canceled her interview earlier. Her resume was short. Her experience was not glamorous. No fine dining awards, no elite training, no fancy culinary school, but something about her hand-written cover letter had made him pause. There was sincerity in it, and sincerity was rare in his world. "Send her to the east hallway," Oven said. When Alana stepped inside, she looked around quietly. The mansion was beautiful, but she did not appear intimidated. She walked with a steady pace, her shoulders relaxed, her eyes alert. She did not know about the 22 chefs before her. She did not know about the midnight demands. She did not know she was walking into a place where hope arrived and died in less than 48 hours. What she knew was simple. A job waited behind those doors. The doors opened. Alana Brooks stepped inside, her bag held close to her side. The space beyond was quiet, wide, and orderly. Light from a large chandelier spread across the polished floor, warm but distant, like a room that was used to being observed rather than lived in. She paused only long enough to let the doors close behind her. This was not curiosity, this was a habit. Each step echoed softly in the silent mansion. The faint scent of burnt sugar and lingering spices from the day's chaos still clung to the air. She did not flinch. She did not hesitate. Her posture suggested confidence, calm, and quiet determination. Even the house seemed to pause as if it sensed her presence. Oven Beaumont stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, arms crossed, scanning the last light of the afternoon fading into twilight. He had been told that a candidate had arrived, but he did not expect calmness, poise, or presence of mind. Most applicants arrived nervous, overdressed, or overwhelmed by the size of the home and the reputation of its twins. He finally turned to face her. Even from her first step, he noticed the way she carried herself, steady, unshaken, precise. Someone who had walked through storms and survived. Someone who would not crumble at the first sign of difficulty. "Good evening," she said, her voice even and clear. "I am Alana Brooks. I came for the interview." Oven's eyes studied her, sharp and calculating. He was taller than she expected, and his presence commanded attention without needing to raise his voice. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his gaze carried the weight of someone accustomed to authority. "Ms. Brooks," he said finally, his tone neutral, "follow me." He led her down the long hallway without commentary. His silence carried the same weight as words might have. Each step toward the twins' quarters felt heavier, measured, deliberate. Alana noticed, and she felt the stakes in her chest, the quiet warning of a house that had seen talent rise and fail in less than 2 days. She did not flinch. She did not hesitate. She adjusted the strap of her bag and followed. Every detail of the mansion registered in her mind. The polished floors, the lingering scent of burnt sugar, the faint hum of staff moving quietly behind closed doors. She understood instantly that her success would depend on more than skill. Patience, observation, and instinct would matter as much as her cooking. When they reached the doorway of the twins' playroom, muffled laughter floated out, sharp and curious. Alana paused, tilting her head slightly. She could feel the energy in the air. Two intelligent and bold children, unafraid to test anyone who entered their space. This was not simply a kitchen. This was a challenge of character, strategy, and endurance. Oven stopped at the doorway. He said nothing about the twins' habits, preferences, or reputation. He did not need to. The air itself spoke for the house. Every glance, every step, every shadow whispered that mistakes here would carry consequences. Alana understood that perfectly. The stakes were high, and the house would measure every move she made. She breathed slowly, keeping her posture steady. Her eyes swept over the room one final time, noting the small chairs, the scattered toys, and the counter where meals had sat untouched by 22 chefs before her. She understood immediately. She would need more than culinary skill. She would need intuition, patience, and courage. Evan gave her a single nod toward the hallway and stepped back. His expression remained unreadable. He made no promises. He offered no warnings. Alina felt the weight of the unspoken rule: succeed or risk failure. Her pay, her opportunity, and her reputation depended entirely on her performance. With one final glance at Evan, she stepped forward into the room. The muffled laughter turned into curious, cautious gazes. 2 pairs of eyes met hers, sharp, intelligent, challenging. Alina felt a quiet thrill. This was the real test, the true beginning. She had entered the house alone, unarmed but resolute, and now the challenge of understanding the twins' world awaited her. Every instinct told her to move carefully, to observe, to listen. Every sense was heightened, ready to read the slightest change in expression, tone, or mood. She did not yet know their names, their habits, or their desires, but she could feel the magnitude of what lay ahead. The door closed softly behind her. The mansion held its breath. Alina had arrived, untested but unbroken, and for the first time that evening, a small flicker of possibility sparked in Evan's chest. The real challenge had begun. Alina Brooks stood at the edge of the kitchen, apron folded in her hands, listening. The mansion was quiet in a way that felt unnatural, like a held breath. The silence did not last. Footsteps rushed down the hallway. Laughter followed. Then arguing. 2 voices, both sharp, both certain, both refusing to give ground. The twins entered like a storm. One moved fast, scanning every surface. The other stopped short, eyes narrowed, already judging. They did not greet Alina. They did not ask her name. They went straight to the counter, pulling out stools, climbing up like they owned the space. One twin spoke first. "I am hungry right now." The other snapped back, "Not that. I want something describing heat but not spicy." Alina did not react. She did not rush. She placed the apron on slowly, then met their eyes at the same level. No smile, no warning, no apology. "Tell me what cold food means to you," she said. The twins froze. No chef had ever asked that. Evan Beaumont watched from the hallway. He did not step in. He did not clear his throat. He had learned that interference always made things worse. Chefs tried to impress him. They forgot who mattered. They failed within hours. He noticed how Alina moved. She did not pace. She did not fidget. She did not try to entertain. She waited. The twin who hated cold food crossed their arms. "Cold food means lazy." The other leaned forward. "Cold food means you do not care." Alina nodded once. "Then I will not be lazy, and I will care." She did not promise success. She did not bargain. She simply turned to the stove. Evan frowned. That was new. The twins tested her immediately. They changed their minds every minute. They demanded separate plates, then shared plates, then new plates. One asked for sauce, then rejected it. The other demanded texture, then complained about the sound. They tapped forks. They slid stools across the floor. They watched her hands. Alina did not raise her voice. She did not snap. She adjusted. She spoke when needed. She stayed silent when silence worked better. Halfway through, one twin said, "You will quit." Alina did not look up. "I have not failed yet." That sentence landed hard. Evan shifted his weight. Every chef before her had argued, had defended themselves, had blamed the rules. She did none of that. The stove clicked off. Plates were placed carefully. Steam rose. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was cold. Before the twins could react, Alina stepped back. "You decide," she said. "Eat or do not eat." The kitchen went still. This was the moment chefs usually lost control. This was where tears came, or anger, or begging. The twins stared at the plates, then at her, then at each other. They tasted. One bite. Then another. They did not smile, they did not praise, they kept eating. Evan felt his chest tighten. He checked his watch without meaning to. 40 minutes passed. Nobody screamed. Evan returned later than planned. A call had pulled him away. A crisis had demanded his attention. He expected noise when he came back. He expected disaster. Instead, he found the twins seated at the table, eating quietly. Elena stood nearby, wiping the counter, not watching them like a guard, not hovering, just present. One twin spoke with a mouth full of food. She listens. The other added, she does not rush. Evan said nothing. If you have ever watched something impossible happen in front of you, you know that feeling. Shock does not shout, it settles. This was the inciting moment, not the meal, not the calm, the realization. The problem had never been the chefs. Elena felt it too, the shift, the weight of what she had just stepped into. This was not a job that allowed mistakes. Evan had made that clear without words. One misstep, one broken rule. Her pay was not secure, her position was not safe. She did not know yet that 22 chefs had failed before her. She did not know the midnight demands, the exhaustion, the pressure. But she sensed it. And she stayed. Before the next part, pause and think. Would you stay in a job where success depended on 2 children who trusted nobody? Drop your thoughts below. Your comment helps shape what happens next. The night was not over. It had only begun. The second night tested Elena more than the first. The twins did not scream. They did not throw plates, that was worse. Silence meant strategy. Silence meant pressure. Dinner passed without chaos, but midnight did not. At 12:47, the kitchen light turned on. One twin wanted soup. The other demanded something baked but soft, warm but light, filling but not heavy. The rules changed every minute. The clock mattered. Fatigue mattered. Elena tied her apron again. No chef before her had lasted past midnight. Evan knew this. The staff knew this. Nobody said it. The house waited. The twins watched her closely, testing patience more than skill. One leaned against the counter. The other tapped a spoon against a bowl, counting seconds. Elena moved with control. She did not rush. She did not sigh. She adjusted heat, texture, and timing without explaining herself. She did not ask permission. She finished. The twins tasted. They ate. Not fast, not slow, steady. The clock read 1:32. The record had been broken. Evan stood at the top of the stairs, unseen. He had not slept. He had expected the call, the resignation, the door slamming open. None came. Instead, he saw his children cleaning up, not forced, not ordered. Elena handed them towels. Responsibility replaced rebellion. This unsettled him. Every solution before had failed because it tried to control the twins. Elena had not done that. She had included them. That scared him more than chaos ever had. The next day, staff whispered. Nobody lasted 48 hours. Elena reached hour 36. Eyes followed her. Expectations grew heavier. The twins pushed harder. They demanded different meals at the same time. They tested limits. They broke the routine. Elena responded with structure, not force. She set boundaries without raising her voice. The twins noticed. That night, one asked quietly if she would still be there tomorrow. Elena answered with action, not promise. Hour 48 arrived. The house waited for collapse. It did not come. The twins slept. Elena cleaned the kitchen. Evan sat alone, realizing something dangerous. Hoping. By the 4th day, Elena noticed the pattern. The twins did not hate food. They hated being ignored. They acted out when adults rushed past them, when meals were delayed without explanation, and when promises were broken quietly. Food was their language. Elena listened. Evan watched from a distance. He saw his children laugh at the table. He saw them finish meals without complaint. He saw something else. Attachment. That terrified him. People left, chefs left, caregivers left. What happened when Elena did too? The truth surfaced during a quiet afternoon. One twin asked Elena why she did not quit. Elena paused. She answered honestly. She said that she had worked many jobs where people judged her before listening. She said patience had saved her more than talent ever had. The twins listened. That night, Evan checked the files. 22 chefs. Each one had quit after demanding control. None had asked questions. The problem had never been skill. It had been ego. Evan felt guilt surface. He had created the rules. He had set impossible standards. He had protected himself with distance. Now his children were changing without him. That stung. Elena realized the truth at the same time. This job was not about cooking. It was about healing something broken long before she arrived. And healing always demanded a price. Before we move forward, think about this. When was the last time patience changed a situation you thought was impossible? Share your thoughts below. The fall did not arrive with shouting. It came in a quiet kitchen, late afternoon, when exhaustion had settled into every corner of the house. A plate slipped from a junior staff member's hands and shattered against the tile. The sound was sharp enough to turn heads. It was not thrown. It was not anger. It was fatigue. Still, the report traveled fast. By the time it reached Evan Beaumont, the details had already changed. The story suggested disorder, a lack of control, a kitchen that was slipping back into chaos. Morning returned to the house without announcement. Light moved across the kitchen counters as if nothing had happened the night before. The mansion did not remember fear. It did not remember doubt. It only waited to be used again. Elena Brooks arrived before the staff. She tied her apron. She washed her hands. She checked the pantry without rushing. There was no apology in her posture and no challenge in her eyes. She worked the way people did when they had already decided who they were going to be, regardless of the outcome. Down the hall, Evan Beaumont reviewed reports he no longer trusted. Numbers did not explain the silence. Complaints did not explain why children had finally slept through the night. Patterns told him one story. His house told him another. He closed the folder. For the first time in weeks, he chose to observe instead of judge. Noah and Naomi came down together. Not running, not arguing, not demanding. They sat at the counter without instructions. This alone altered the room. Elena did not ask what they wanted. She placed 2 plates down when the time felt right. Simple food, familiar smells, nothing designed to impress. The twins ate. Slowly. Noah glanced toward the hallway where Evan stood unseen. Naomi followed his look. They did not whisper. They did not need to. When the plates were empty, Naomi pushed hers forward. Not away. Forward. It was a small motion. It landed hard. Evan stepped into the kitchen. The twins did not stiffen. Elena did not turn. That unsettled him more than noise ever had. He watched the children speak to Elena about school, about a drawing, about a question neither of them had asked before but clearly carried. Elena answered without teaching, without correcting, without control. She listened. Evan understood then what every report had missed. The chefs before her had tried to win. Elena had chosen to stay. Not because she was fearless, because she was steady. That realization did not arrive with relief. It arrived with weight. He had mistaken survival for failure. Evan asked the staff to leave the kitchen. No reprimand followed, no accusation. He did not mention the broken plate. He did not mention the report. He did not offer reassurance. Instead, he asked one question. How long do you plan to stay? Alina did not answer quickly. Long enough to matter, she said. Nothing else. That answer unsettled him more than any resignation letter ever had. He nodded once. The house shifted again. No announcement was made to the staff. No policy change on paper. But access returned. Trust loosened its grip. Alina was no longer watched for mistakes. She was watched for results. The twins noticed first. They tested less. They listened more. Something in them relaxed, as if the room itself had finally stopped bracing for impact. That night, Evan passed the kitchen and heard laughter. Not sharp, not loud. Real. He stopped walking. He did not enter. Some moments needed distance to survive. Alina did not celebrate. She cleaned the counters. She set the next day's menu. She wrote notes for supplies. Victory, when it came, arrived quietly. The job was no longer a test. It was a responsibility. And for the first time since the chefs began arriving and leaving, the house did not feel like it was waiting for the next failure. It felt like it had chosen. The question now was simple, and it belonged to the listener as much as the story. When trust finally appears, do you protect it or do you test it until it breaks? The answer would decide what came next. The call came late in the evening, after the twins had eaten and the house had settled into its rare quiet. Evan Beaumont stood near the staircase when his phone vibrated. He did not answer it right away. He already knew who it was. Rachel Whitmore had been away for months. Business travel, missed calls filled with polite distance. She had always moved in and out of his life with the confidence of someone who believed the door would remain open no matter how long she stayed gone. He answered on the third ring. She did not ask if it was a good time. She told him she was on her way. By the time her car pulled into the circular drive, the twins were upstairs. Alina was finishing cleanup in the kitchen, unaware that the balance she had worked weeks to build was about to be tested. Rachel entered the house like someone, returning to what she believed was still hers. She noticed everything, the quiet, the order, the lack of tension. And she noticed Alina. Rachel paused in the doorway of the kitchen, studying her with a look that was calm but measuring. Alina returned the glance briefly, then continued wiping the counter, respectful, neutral, unimpressed. Evan made the introductions short. Rachel smiled, the kind of smile that did not reach the eyes. "So you are the chef," she said. Alina nodded, "Yes, Mom." Rachel looked around the kitchen, clean, organized, alive in a way the house had not been before. She said nothing else. But something settled behind her eyes. Dinner that night was Alina's food. Rachel sat at the table with Evan as plates were placed in front of them. She tasted slowly, carefully, like someone searching for flaws. Then she nodded. "This is good," she said, "very good." Alina thanked her and stepped back. Rachel asked questions, where Alina trained, where she worked before, how long did she plan to stay? Alina answered simply. She did not overshare. She did not explain her bond with the twins. She did not need to. Rachel watched everything. How Evan relaxed when he ate, how the house felt less guarded, how the staff moved without fear. Later that night, Rachel kissed Evan goodnight and said she was tired from traveling. But she did not sleep. She lay awake, listening to the house breathe in a way it never had when she lived there before. And she made a decision. The next morning, Alina arrived in the kitchen early. She always did. She set out ingredients quietly, already thinking about breakfast for the twins. One preferred warm textures, One liked balance. She had learned these things not by force but by attention. Rachel entered the kitchen fully dressed, composed, and her hair neat. "Alina," she said. "Yes, Mom." "Stand by the door today." Alina paused. "Excuse me." "I will cook this morning," Rachel said, "for Evan." Alina looked toward the hallway instinctively. Evan was not there. Rachel continued calmly, "I would like privacy, you may observe." It was not a request. Alina stepped back slowly and stood near the door, hands folded, posture controlled. She did not argue. She did not react. Rachel tied an apron. She cooked confidently but without rhythm. She moved like someone following memory, not instinct. When Evan entered, Rachel smiled brightly. "Breakfast is ready." He noticed Alina standing to the side. "What is going on?" he asked. Rachel did not look at her. "I wanted to do something nice." The twins came down moments later. They stopped at the last step. They looked at the table. Then they looked at Alina. "Where is her food?" Naomi asked. Rachel answered before anyone else could. "I cooked today." Noah frowned. "We did not ask you." The room tightened. Rachel laughed lightly. "Try it first." The twins did not move. "We want her food," Naomi said. Rachel's smile thinned. Rachel knelt slightly, lowering herself to the twins' level. "You have to learn to eat what is served," she said. "That is how families work." Noah shook his head. "That is not how this works." Evan shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe just let Alina." Rachel stood. "No." Her voice stayed calm but firm. "They need structure," she said. "They cannot keep controlling this house." Alina remained silent by the door. The twins climbed down the stairs and walked past the table. They went straight to Alina. Naomi took her hand. "We are not hungry," she said, "if she is not cooking." The room froze. Rachel straightened slowly. "This is unacceptable," she said. She turned to Evan. "She is undermining me." Alina spoke for the first time. "I did nothing." Rachel pointed. "Exactly." Rachel faced Evan fully now. "This is not healthy," she said. "They are attached to her in a way that is not appropriate." Alina felt the weight of the words land like a blade. "She has replaced authority," Rachel continued. "She decides what they eat, when they eat. They refuse food unless she prepares it." "That is not true," Evan said, but uncertainty crept into his tone. Rachel pressed harder. "Every chef before her failed. Now suddenly she succeeds. Ask yourself why." The words settled into the room like smoke. Alina remained still. The twins looked between the adults. Rachel crossed her arms. "This house needs boundaries. Either she leaves or I do." Silence followed. Evan did not answer. He looked at Alina. Then he looked at his children. Noah stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. "Why cannot the chef replace you?" he asked Rachel. The question cut clean through the room. Rachel stiffened. "She is good," Noah continued. "She listens, you do not." Naomi nodded. "She stays." Evan exhaled slowly. Rachel laughed, sharp and offended. "They are children." Noah looked directly at her. "We know who feeds us." The words landed heavier than any accusation. Rachel turned to Alina. "You planned this." Alina met her eyes for the first time fully. "I came to cook," she said, "nothing more." Rachel looked back at Evan. "Choose." Evan did not answer. The twins stood beside Alina. No one moved. No one won. Not yet. The house waited. The question now belongs to the viewer. If peace walked into your life quietly, would you recognize it before it left? Share what choice you would have made in the comment. Morning arrived without noise. The kitchen lights were already on when Alina Brooks stepped inside. She moved with the same calm she had carried every day since she arrived. Apron folded, hands clean, posture steady. The twins had not come down yet. Evan Beaumont stood near the counter, reading something on his phone. He looked up when Alina entered, then glanced toward the doorway again, as if expecting someone else. A moment later, Rachel Whitmore walked in. She wore a fitted blouse and a calm smile that did not reach her eyes. Her presence shifted the room immediately. She did not greet Alina. She did not acknowledge her position in the space. She walked straight to the counter. "Alina," Rachel said, her voice polite but firm, "stand by the door today." Alina paused. She did not argue. She did not ask why. She stepped back and stood where Rachel pointed. Evan looked up. "What is this?" Rachel smiled. "I want to cook for you just today." Evan hesitated. "That is not how this works." "It is one morning," Rachel replied. "I am your fiancée. I should be able to make you breakfast in your own home." Evan did not respond. Alina stood quietly by the door. The twins came down moments later. Noah stopped first. Naomi followed, already scanning the kitchen. They both froze when they saw Rachel at the stove. They did not smile. They did not sit. They looked at Alina. "Why is she there?" Naomi asked. Rachel turned, still calm. "Good morning, I am making breakfast." Noah shook his head. "Where is Alina's food?" Rachel paused. "I am cooking today." Silence followed. The kind that warned something was about to break. Rachel plated the food carefully. Eggs, toast, warm fruit. She placed the dishes on the table. "Sit," she said gently. The twins did not move. Naomi folded her arms. "We do not want that." Rachel looked surprised. "You did not even taste it." Noah spoke next. "We want Alina's food." Rachel glanced at Evan. "Children test boundaries. They do this." "They do not," Evan said. "Not like this." Rachel turned back to the twins. "Sit." Naomi shook her head harder. "We do not eat cold food. We do not eat rushed food. Alina knows." Rachel stiffened. "This food is not cold." Noah looked at Alina. "She did not talk to us first." Rachel laughed softly. "I do not need permission from children to cook." That was when Naomi pushed the plate away. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Evan stood up. "Enough." Rachel turned to him. "This is exactly what I warned you about. They control this house." "They control nothing," Evan said. "They are responding." "To what?" Rachel asked. "To respect," Naomi answered. Rachel looked at her sharply. "You do not speak to adults like that." Noah looked at his sister, then at his father. "Why is she angry?" he asked. Evan did not answer. Rachel turned toward Alina. "This is why she cannot stay." The room stopped breathing. "She undermines me," Rachel said. "She lets them refuse. She lets them decide. This is not healthy." Alina remained silent. Evan stared at Rachel. "You told me you liked her food last night." "I did," Rachel said quickly. "That is not the point." "Then what is?" Rachel took a breath. "Either she leaves or I do." The words landed hard. The twins went still. Evan did not respond. Rachel continued. "I cannot build a life in a house where hired help holds more authority than I do." Alina finally spoke. "I do not hold authority." Rachel turned. "You hold influence." Naomi stood. "She listens." Rachel shook her head. "She manipulates." That was when Noah walked forward. He looked at his father, then at Rachel. "Can Alina replace you?" he asked. Rachel stared at him. "Excuse me." "She is good enough," Noah said calmly. "Better." The air left the room. Evan closed his eyes once. Rachel stepped back. "You see, this is unacceptable." "No," Evan said, "this is honest." Rachel looked at him. You will choose children over your future wife. I will choose truth, Evan said. The twins moved closer to Alina without touching her. Evan spoke slowly. For 2 months, 22 chefs failed, not because of skill, because they never stayed long enough to listen. Rachel crossed her arms. That is not her job. It is exactly her job, Evan said, and she does it well. Rachel laughed sharply. You are letting guilt guide you. Evan looked at her. No, I am letting peace guide me. He turned to Alina. Did you ever tell them what to eat? Alina shook her head. No. Did you ever refuse to cook? No. Did you ever ask them to choose sides? No. Rachel stepped forward. This is manipulation by softness. Naomi spoke. She makes food that feels safe. Rachel opened her mouth, then stopped. Evan turned to Rachel. You did not ask them one question. Rachel looked away. I will not ask her to leave, Evan said, and I will not force them to eat fear. Rachel stared at him. Then I cannot stay. Evan nodded once. Then you should go. Rachel stood very still. So this is it, she said. You choose a chef. I choose my children, Evan said, and a home that works. Rachel picked up her bag without another word. She did not look at Alina. She walked out. The door closed softly. No one moved. Then Noah pulled out a chair. Can Alina cook now? He asked. Evan exhaled. Yes, he said. Alina moved to the counter. She did not rush. She cooked with steady hands. The twins sat. They ate. Quiet returned. Later that afternoon, Evan stood in the doorway of the kitchen. I owe you more than pay, he said. Alina looked at him. You owe me nothing. He shook his head. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. She nodded. So did you. Evan smiled. The twins laughed in the other room. For the first time in months, the house felt settled. Weeks passed. No chef left. Meals became routine. Laughter replaced tension. The rule remained simple. Food was not control. Food was care. Evan watched his children grow calmer. He watched Alina work with quiet pride. And for the first time since the chaos began, the house felt like a home.